Hey everyone, it's Sonia here. I wanted to give you another little update on what's going on in Quebec. It's pretty bad. It's pretty heavy, actually. Okay, so we're going to be talking a bit about this health tax that's going to be imposed on the unvaccinated and why this may not work out. There are going to definitely be some legal challenges. And also, I'm going to give you an update on the situation with locking unvaccinated people out of some stores, such as big box stores. They mentioned Walmart, Costco, Canadian Tire. So I'll let you know what's happening with that, and also the problem of locking unvaccinated truckers out of the country so they can't bring us food. What could possibly go wrong? So before I start, I just want to say thanks for liking the video and thank you for your support on Patreon. That keeps my channel going. And I want to give a little shout out to C60EVO. You guys, this is hands down my absolute favorite supplement that has done a lot for me. I'll leave you a link to the video that I made about it and how it really helped me with my sleep, which was a big deal for me. I want to let you know that they have some very nice discounts for you if you use the link below. And also my testimonial is on their website, so you could check that out. So yeah, check out the link below for more info and a discount. So let's talk about what's going on in Quebec. Recap a little bit. They said Quebec will impose a health contribution for unvaccinated adults. They said at the time it would have to be something significant, not just $50 or $100. How high are they talking? We don't know. And is it a tax? Is that legal? I'm not sure. They're trying to figure out the legality of it and how to go about it. It's sounding like what they're trying to do is force them to pay, like they say here, a health contribution, which actually has wider implications because it could mean that if you don't pay it, that you don't have access to health care, which I did not realize, but apparently. But I'm going to get into that a bit. So here's the new news. Quebec will backtrack on Unvaxed tax, says a liberal health critic. Liberal health critic Monsef Deraji says he expects the idea will be abandoned the same way the province backtracked on its plan to force healthcare workers to get vaccinated or be suspended without pay. He says he'll give it 4 to 6 weeks before the government says it tried its best to push people to get vaccinated, eventually admitting it wasn't a realistic idea. So there are actually quite a lot of people opposed to this so-called vax tax or health tax, including conservative leader Aaron O'Toole. Let's see what he has to say about it. He says, "We're not a country that traditionally punishes or taxes people in this way. I don't like to see measures like those we see in Quebec." O'Toole blames the government of Justin Trudeau because he believes that if the provinces impose restrictive measures to control the spread, it is because the tools are missing. It is possible for the fifth wave to manage the pandemic with the tools like rapid screening, mass social distancing, and a very high level of vaccination, he said. He had opposed the imposition of measures that were too restrictive to oppose the Omicron variant, and he asked the government to put in place reasonable accommodations for Canadians who still refuse to be vaccinated because their absence in certain sectors of the economy could hurt. Yes, it's kind of taking a toll on the economy, isn't it? And here was Alberta's Premier Jason Kenney. He was calling out Quebec on this inhumane and unethical and certainly un-Canadian proposed tax. Now, what was really interesting here was the second part of the video where he brought to our attention that what this would mean would be that poor people who are unvaccinated, who are unable to pay this tax, would then not have access to health care. I mean, if I understand correctly,
I am very concerned about the announcement that the government of Quebec intends in principle to pursue a tax of some kind, a special health levy or charge on unvaccinated individuals. It's a moral obligation that we have not to pick and choose who gets care based on their financial ability. Because the implication of this policy is that low-income unvaccinated people would be denied care which is, I think, inhumane and unethical, and certainly un-Canadian.
Wow. See, I did not realize that. I thought it was like, I don't know, they're going to bill you for something, but I did not know that it was like if you didn't pay this sort of premium, you wouldn't have access to healthcare. That's kind of crazy because I mean, if you look at who are the, the people that are refusing the vaccine as a group, looking at the demographics, we all know this includes marginalized people, minorities, people who come from cultures that have a history of bad relations and distrust of the government because of things that have happened in the past. They have a generational trauma. It includes people with mental health issues. So, I mean, there are some people who they don't fall into any of those categories and they still don't want it, but definitely a lot of marginalized people are among the unvaccinated or the vaccine hesitant or vaccine resistors. So that's quite shocking that they wouldn't have access to healthcare. So here's an article from the Journal du Québec. This one's in French. Sorry, I couldn't get it translated. For some reason, it didn't work. Taxing the unvaccinated, contestation judiciaire means court cases to come, according to specialists. So they're talking here to Maître Clara Davio, who said certainly there will be a risk of this being contested in court. So this is what this lawyer is saying, that even if it violates charter rights, anyone who wants to contest it would have to prove that this measure isn't justified in the context of the pandemic. Now, here's another take from a different lawyer. This is, I thought, was very interesting. This is Maître Karine Joisil, who says, when you want to infringe on the rights of an individual in this country, we can do it on certain occasions if it's justified, if it has a good objective. The objective is to content and contain the anger of the majority. And that cannot be the objective, says this lawyer. If we impose a tax on the unvaccinated, how is that going to protect us, the vaccinated? It is not going to increase the collective immune protection, she says. So she doesn't think it would pass the test of the tribunals. So I thought it was interesting that she pointed out that the objective, if you're going to override charter rights, there has to be like a clear benefit directly to public health. Appeasing the anger of the vaccinated public wouldn't justify this kind of a measure. Here's another opinion from Quebec, taxing the unvaccinated. It won't work. I'm just giving you a little bit of a picture of what is being discussed in our media here. Now, this person is pointing out, if we start looking at the behavior of people who are sick before they have contracted the disease, we are not out of the woods. Let us forget, in this case, free healthcare in Quebec. So he's reading he's describing here the Health Insurance Act, which protects free healthcare in Quebec, and states in Section 3, the cost of the following services rendered by a healthcare professional shall be assumed by the Régie on behalf of every insured person in accordance with the provision of this act and regulations. All services rendered by physicians which are medically required. This is a broad concept, and it would be difficult, how would they limit this? He said if they would want to tax the unvaccinated, the Legault government would have to change the law. He said it is possible to change the law, but they would be opening a Pandora's box since they're looking at people's behavior before the need for care. And so there are many other cases where this could apply, such as people who smoke, people who eat badly, those who consume alcohol, or those who do no sports. So this is a point that has been raised. What you're doing here is you're preemptively sort of penalizing people for making bad decisions about their health. So why would you stop at vaccination status? I mean, clearly smoking is really bad for you. So by this logic, it would only make sense that you would also apply some kind of health tax to smokers. And if you're going to do that, why stop at smokers? So these are all pretty big, pretty important questions that are being raised. It could be argued that taxing or imposing hospitalization costs on the unvaccinated would be an emergency measure and could be taken by decree. Number 8, order any other measure necessary to protect the health of the population. But the courts, in my opinion, would remind the government that the law gave them another measure, which is compulsory vaccination, and which is well specified and established in the law, which is true. It is in the Public Health Act. But the Public Health Act is meant to be used, in an emergency, not forever. So there are some questions coming up about whether we're really still in that level of emergency. I'm just going to pull this one up here, actually, while we're on the subject. So Omicron, a considerable drop is foreseen after the peak. So pretty much all over the world, wherever they have had Omicron, I'm sure you've seen the graphs, it goes up steeply and then it comes right back down. So it could be that the peak of this emergency is over and we're heading back down, and that's what it's looking like. I mean, there are other sites I could show you, but I won't pull up all these graphs and stats, but it's looking like, we're over the peak. So, what I noticed was that I'm sure the government obviously has access to all this information. Of course they do, and they know it before the public does, and they know how Omicron tends to go. And it seemed like they made this strategic decision. I mean, why didn't they, 2 weeks before tell people, no, you won't be able to gather for holidays? Like, they still let them do it. They didn't close anything. It was really just till the last minute. I think that they did that when they knew they were very close to the peak. I'm pretty sure all these epidemiologists can tell where it's heading and when it's close to the peak. I'm sure they can. I mean, if they can predict it months in advance, I'm sure that when it's like a few days before the peak, they can pretty much tell the government, okay, we're close to that. And so what they did was they waited until this had really taken over and mushroomed, which why wouldn't they expect that to happen? Or anyone could have foreseen that, right? Don't have to be an expert. And then, like, when it was almost at the peak, then they imposed the closing of all the restaurants and the bars, and they imposed the curfew, and that was just before the peak. So then it just goes right over the peak and comes down, and they go, oh, look what the curfew did. Oh, look at the good job we did. We stopped the Omicron. When realistically, it would have probably done this and that, regardless of the curfew. But I think that some people really think that it was because of the curfew and because of these measures. There's some very staunch CAQ supporters who seem to really think that that's what made the difference. And praise the great leader Legault for saving us again. So yeah, will these extra measures like health tax or penalties be even justifiable? So here's something else. The question of the vaccine passports, a challenge for supermarkets. Can you even believe it? My American friends, behold what we are living here in Canada. Behold what happens when you allow it to, to take hold. I mean, it started out with the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then it was, oh, we're going to have a vaccine passport, but only to be used in certain places. These were their words. In certain places in emergency. If there's a big explosion of cases, then we may use it in that area geographically. They told us they were going to apply it like that, not all over forever. But that's what they did. It was just all across Quebec, regardless of how many cases and whatever we have. It actually was just used as a way to reward people who had taken their vaccines. Because at the time when they implemented it, there was not much going on. Vaccination passports, a challenge for supermarkets. So here we are. They implemented it in September. Here we are in January. They're talking about using it for supermarkets. They mentioned, the big box stores, Canadian Tire, not a supermarket, but any store that's over, as I say here, 1,500 square meters, will inevitably lose customers and sales. Yes, poor them. Yeah, now it's the big stores that are going to be hit. So yes, Canadian Tire, Costco, Walmart, and really any large store. But I don't understand why they talk about the supermarkets, because they said it wouldn't apply to food stores. But I guess it does. if they're big enough and they're saying, oh, but we have no choice, we have to adapt, so we're going to have to do this. Because our leader Legault said we have to do it. I don't know about that, though, because the smaller retail, they said no. So it's the smaller retail owners together through their unions said, no, we can't do this. They actually said it's unenforceable. It would put a huge burden on them. It was unenforceable. They didn't want to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Can't do it. Won't do it. And our government backed off. But I guess what happened was that the big stores, the corporate stores, agreed to it. And now they're crying for sympathy. Oh, we're going to lose customers. Well, I mean, why didn't you stand up against it? I don't know. Vaccine passport in supermarkets. Renaud Bray urges Quebec to back down. See, this is the library, well, bookstore, Renaud Bray. And it is a very large store. And so because of that, they're going to have to police their customers. Renaud Bray management says it is dismayed by Quebec City's decision to extend the vaccine passport control requirement to bookstores over 1,500 square meters in area, and urges the government to exclude the book sector from this measure. You know, it is kind of weird because this whole time with the pandemic, they've been telling us how it's important to distance. So these very large stores where there's lots of air and lots of room, now only vaccinated people can go in there, and the unvaccinated people who are susceptible, they have to go and crowd into the small stores. Who makes these decisions? Public health. Oh my God. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm not the expert. So yes, I guess some of them are complaining. A lot of people are saying right away, oh, I'm handing in my Costco card. Like, I'm done. Any store that does this, I'm going to boycott. I think some people will, but since these stores are offering curbside pickup, people are saying they might just go anyway and just get the curbside pickup. Actually, was it in this article? Yes, citizens met by TVA Nouvelle welcome this measure announced by Quebec. Oh, très bien, oui. Which aims to tighten the screws on unvaccinated people. However, others consider it exaggerated. Funny, eh? The people that TVA Nouvelle finds, they're really happy about it. Others consider it exaggerated. I think TVA Nouvelle maybe made sure to find those people. It is the vaccinated people who will suffer, who will line up and have to wait. I think they're onto something with that. Because, man, the lineup at Costco the other day, and boy, was it cold. And the lineup was like 2 blocks long. So if you're vaccinated, you get to line up to go in the store. Lucky you. If you're not vaccinated, you can, do your order by phone or by internet and then just pick it up in your nice warm car. But you don't get to come inside. So the vaccinated are complaining. The non-vaccinated, they will order online. That's a good point. Man, I saw the other day, like, pre-election polls, because we're having an election in October. And the Legault supporters, the CAQ, it's gone down a bit. It went from 42% or 43%. It's down to 38%, but that's not down enough if you ask me. Unfortunately, what's happening is it's a bit like when Maxime Bernier gained support. He had support, but it was sort of spread all over. So there was some popular support, but not enough in one area to win him even one riding. So the Conservative Party of Quebec now with Éric Duhaime says they're up to 18%. That's 18% popular support, but that doesn't mean that they're going to win any given area. Like, again, it's the same as what happened in the federal election. Unfortunately, when you look at the predictions, despite the increase in popularity, like popular vote for the Liberals, the Québec Solidaire, and the Conservative Party, CAQ is still way up in the front, where it's mostly a shoe-in for them in most areas, and they could even have a majority government. What a nightmare. Another 4 years of François Legault. I really need to figure out a way to move to Ontario. It's insane. So here's one more thing. I guess this is going to be a long video. Les camionneurs non vaccinés refusés à la frontière. Il va y en avoir des tablettes vides. What this means is unvaccinated truckers refused at the border. We're going to have empty shelves. I know you Americans, you're already seeing the effects of these supply shortages that have just been getting worse and worse. I've seen it online. People posting pictures of the empty store shelves, and I've seen it in Canada also online. Not here in Montreal yet, but I'm pretty sure it's coming. But so what they're going to do is the truckers, the American truckers can't come in if they're not double vaccinated. What I heard lately was that the Canadian truckers will still be able to come back, but they won't be letting American truckers with food and such come in. What a disaster this is going to be. Saving lives. Saving lives. Pandemic health measures. Saving lives. Saving COVID lives. So they can starve to death. Pénurie appréhendée à cause des camionneurs non vaccinés. It will be impossible for them to cross the border as of the 15th of January. That's tomorrow. Maybe today, depending on, I guess, when I upload the video. As of today, it's the 14th. So, I mean, it's 10:30 on the 14th. So this is now. So this is what people in food processing are worried, that this mandatory vaccination of the truckers to cross the border as of Saturday will derail the logistics chain and force a inflation of the prices if nothing is done. Can you imagine the shortages we're going to have? So apparently it's about 15% of the truckers that are not vaccinated. So here it says 12 to 15%, according to the Canadian Alliance for Trucking. I've heard, though, that there are other people that in a show of solidarity would I guess not cross the border. I don't know. Sounds bad. So that's the news. Francois Legault painted it all as very good news, but I'm not so sure. People are getting pissed, you know. Even vaccinated people up here at this point, a lot of them are getting really angry with the government. So anyway, I'll let you know how it turns out. I'll keep you posted. Thanks again for liking the video and for your support on Patreon. And don't forget to check out the link for the C60 EVO, which I really love. Check out the testimonials and you'll see why I love it so much. Check it out for a discount also. And thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening to me. And I'll see you next time.